Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. So now here he is, the man with the plan to put gold in your hand, Tony Hammock.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody is ready for Christmas and all that good stuff. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, and it is fantastic outside. Well, kind of. I mean, you know, it's like 40-some degrees or 50-some degrees and stuff.
It's a little gray. It's not anything to complain about.
It's 50% chance for rain, but you know what? That's okay. It's December in Missouri.
It's a 50% chance it's not going to rain. How come they ever say that? They never say it that way.
Oh, you're a glass half
exactly.
full type of
Glass half full.
Well, we got a full show. I got to tell you, we're going to do some things different today than we've ever done before. And as you can see, I have Miss Lorna with me today, which I'm excited about. And she's actually kind of hinted maybe if she gets the right presents that she may be here next week. So we'll have to make sure that Santa
completely not reliant on that, but yeah.
delivers and stuff. But you know, I was thinking of the show, and you know, the show is all about alternative assets. It's about money. It's about stewardship, and I got to thinking about some of the things going on out there in the world, and I think what we're going to try and do is this: we're going to let me do the little updates on prices and housekeeping type stuff first, and then we're going to segue into some new items. And we're going to talk a little bit about this stimulus bill that Washington has come up with, and discuss that momentarily. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the 12 steps of COVID-19. That's right. I've come to the conclusion that
this whole year needs a 12-step program.
It does. And the country, I mean, we need some help, folks. And, I mean, there's just a lot of things going on out there that they don't make me comfortable. I don't know about you and your comfort zones and stuff. But, you know, when people are fighting each other at Walmart over PS5s, to the point where one's knocked out, I think it's time to maybe talk about some positive things and think about the season we're in and all those other things like that and stuff. But anyway, with that all said, while I'm looking for my program, what was it we were going to discuss that was going to be the main topic?
Well, we're doing a bit of a wrap up. So I have committed to being here next week as well, because this week we're devoting to a wrap up to this year. And then next week we are looking towards making plans for what 2021 might bring. So how to use a somewhat marginal year, and that's being nice about 2020, as a springboard to greatness. So that's what we'll be doing next week. So this week is just how to close out this year and feel like there have been some positive things. We are going to be able to move forward. And sometimes it's not a matter of, you can't fail. You can just learn. So,
well, and with that in mind, let's get into the prices, because I on the way over we were talking about how to structure this program, since there's some new things in here, and we both decided let's do the update on the alternative assets. Now, these first ones are the precious metals, and they are by the ounce. So, for example, at 9:03 this morning, you could buy an ounce of gold for, well, I should say the spot price was $1,877. The ounce of silver is $25.73. Platinum is $1,022. Palladium is $2,370. And rhodium is $16,100 per ounce. And when you get into the base metals, and remember, these are the ones that are by the pound. And my favorite, if you've been watching the show over the last couple months, you know that every week I get a little excited about copper. And that's because, you know, I saw back at the first of the year, copper was less than $3 a pound. And today it's up another 3 cents. It's at $3.53 a pound, which is a huge move if you want to do it on a percentage basis. From less than 3 to 353 is huge. And nickel's up to $7.67 a pound. Aluminum is 91 cents a pound. Zinc is $1.26. Lead is 89 cents, and uranium is $30 even. I mean, right across the board, $30 for a pound of uranium. Now, why you would need that, we don't know, but we've covered in prior shows how you can actually get a pound of uranium, the paperwork, the different filings you have to make, and all that kind of good stuff. Crude oil. If you wanted a barrel of crude oil this morning, it's going to cost you $47.60. And for the moment, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 212 points. It's at 30,227. NASDAQ, which is the over-the-counter market for the most part, is 12,772, and the S&P is 3,703. So that's kind of a quick update on the pricing. Now, remember I said with the gold and silver, that was for spot price. Gold's at $18.79 and 30 cents. Silver's at $25.72. The reason I say that is spot, for those of you that don't know, is really the price that the mines charge the mint. In other words, it's a price that you and I are never going to get just because it's just not available. Now, what is something we could take advantage of is the dealer direct pricing on gold and silver. I'm looking at the 7K website here, 7K Metals that is, and right now a 1 ounce Gold Eagle coin is $1,966.58. And a 1 ounce Silver Eagle is $29.25. So a little bit of a premium because A, they're refined, they're poured into the cast and they're made into these coins. They're easy to transport. The quality's good. With US, you got 3 nines, 0.999 and a purity. And so we are in favor of the Gold Eagle and the Silver Eagle, along with other things that are in this area. Okay, that's kind of a quick update on the pricing. I want to see if I can find this one thing here because I thought it was very good, but to do that, I need to kind of look around a little bit. Can you, were you going to talk a little bit about insurance?
Well, only to be a bit of a buzzkill, I guess, because when you mention, the minute that you start mentioning precious metals, my insurance brain immediately starts to look at risk management. And it has been a growing trend in the last, 5-10 years for people to add copper accents to their homes. So if you have those, and I think they're gorgeous, by the way, they're just beautiful, but make sure that you have checked your home insurance, that it's actually to the accurate amount so that if someone, say, takes all of your drain pipe, that you are able to replace that because it would be a theft claim. And theft claims are kind of interesting in the insurance world. So not all companies cover them the same, et cetera. So just wanted to make sure that people were aware that it is that time of year that you want to review those things and make sure that that's covered. The other thing that I think of precious metals wise is there is a fun thing that I say fun very sarcastically, of course, because there's a neat thing that these new thieves have gone about. It's not new, actually. It's been going on for years. But they will roll up under your car in a parking lot and remove your catalytic converters. And because they're chock full of copper and other precious metals. And so, again, make sure that you have checked your auto insurance because this would be something that you would want to make sure is covered. It would be, of course. But that would be something important to know, and also making sure that your deductibles are not such that you couldn't get that replaced. So there's my insurance blurb for the moment on those things.
And, that fits right in with what we're always talking about. I call gold and silver wealth insurance. So this just really dovetails nicely with, basically getting full coverage for your life. Your life insurance, your auto, your home, your wealth insurance. I mean, basically in these tough times, it's probably very, very prudent to have these bases covered. But I think I've found the tweet I want to start with here. And this is, I don't know, how many of you, keep track of some of the press releases out of Washington. You know that they've been working on another stimulus package now for how long? 8 months? You know, it seems like forever, you know, with Nancy Pelosi and McConnell. And before I go any further, let me stress, I mean, this is not intended to make this show political. It's not intended to do anything but just to acknowledge some of the dollars and cents involved, because that's what we're here to talk
Right.
about.
This isn't to land on either side of the aisle. We are completely apolitical when it comes to literally anything.
But let me see if this will work, because I've got the cord plugged into my phone, and this is President Trump's tweet from earlier today.
Throughout the summer, Democrats
Can
cruelly
you hear that,
blocked
Jay?
COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment, $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan, $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama, $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business, $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I am also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you heard it straight from President Trump there. That was his tweet he sent out, I guess, last night.
It's not actually a tweet. That was actually a press statement.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
but he sent it out on Twitter.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Can you send video clips on Twitter these days?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I was oblivious.
No, you're okay. But you know, the thing is here, and you know, I mean, there was a lot of numbers in there. I mean, what was funny was yesterday afternoon I got the most recent newsletter from my guy I really like out of Puerto Rico named Simon Black. You know, he's got the.
He's an expat, by the way. He moved out of the U.S.
He's actually an interesting character. He's a West Point grad, and he lives in Puerto Rico, and he just has some brilliant writings that he puts together and publishes and stuff. And yesterday he put out a newsletter, and the title was "I'm scared because I actually agree with AOC."
Yeah.
And the reason he agreed with her is this bill was 5,500 pages long. Now think about that, 5,500 pages, and they received it 2 hours before they were supposed to vote on it.
Well, they weren't given an opportunity to read it, is what it comes down to. And, you know, regardless, you know, you and I even sometimes see things a little differently. And, you know, regardless of what side of the aisle you would consider yourself, I don't think that there's anybody who feels like we want a bill that's just been thrown at our elected officials and told, all right, well, this is the title of it, so therefore that's what you're voting on, when we know that there were thousands of pages in there that had absolutely, and it's typical, right, that had nothing to do with COVID relief. But I think the great concern is if it's based on something that would be U.S. driven, right, for the most part, I don't think there's an issue. I think there was plenty in there for both sides.
Well, like the funding for the Smithsonian.
Funding for the Smithsonian, funding for the Kennedy Center, even funding for the tree management and fish management. I don't think there's a problem with any of those things. I think what ends up being controversial for again, both sides of the aisle is at what point are we funding foreign entities better than we're funding the American citizens in such a desperate situation right now.
Yeah, and like Simon pointed out, I mean, President Trump didn't get a chance to get into it too far into details, but in Simon's newsletter yesterday, he points out that, you know, early on page like 1346, there's a whole clause in there about how we're not going to fund Venezuela with anything, and then on page like 1561, you know, we're giving Venezuela $32 million or something. I mean, those numbers don't hold me to that because I don't have it right in front of me, but that's close enough to say in the same bill there's a huge contradiction within like 100 pages of each other. And you know, I guess what I was telling Lorna on the way over here is that, you know, if any of our sons, you know, because you've watched long enough to know we've got 4 sons and they're fantastic, and you know, let's just take the youngest, he's 13. If he had been given an assignment by one of his teachers to get together with a few classmates and to come up with a solution for
a financial relief package for COVID,
knowing that they haven't had a relief package now in 8 months at least, and they generated a report like this. If they had come up with this as their solution, I can guarantee you they would be getting Fs, because as President Trump mentioned at the end, the American people are getting the bare minimum. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I you know, I don't want to get too emotional here, but you know, $600. I mean, yes, it's a lot of money.
That's not even enough for average rent in the Springfield, Missouri area. And again, many people move to this area because it's lower cost of living. Can you even imagine?
Well, I mean, just what can you really get accomplished in this day and age with $600? I mean, if you have just a small family, you know, a couple of children and stuff like that, I mean, that probably doesn't even cover groceries for, you know, a week. I mean, I would think, you know, between teenagers and the way they consume food, and, you know, trust me, you know, we know.
And some of these people have already exhausted their unemployment benefits. I mean, it makes it really challenging.
Well, and there's just other things.
They just need more.
Yeah, well, and the eviction moratorium is getting ready to expire at the end of the month. And I think that I've read that there's something like 5 million people that if this doesn't get through and have the extension of the moratorium, which no one even brought up, there's going to be 5 million people evicted on January 1st. So, you know, I just think that we as Missouri residents and as U.S. residents, it's time for us to start getting involved. Maybe you already are, and I'm just talking to hear myself talk, but I just think that we need to reach out to our congressmen and find out, let's find out how they voted on this. Because I got to tell you, I think some of these people need to be held accountable. I mean, if they could have passed something like this with that many millions of dollars going to some of these countries, like the one in Burma, what do you say, 130 million to Burma? I think it was Burma.
Yeah.
In the Simon Black article, he actually gets down to the fact that 130 million is for 4 warlords. Now, there's 14 warlords in Burma, so there's 10 that aren't getting anything. Why? I don't know. They must have looked cross-eyed at the wrong person or something like that. But you got to think that's going to create some...
Well, and we're not stepping in on political... We understand that there are situations worldwide, Burma being one of them, which do need to be remedied. That human suffering is never going to be something that I think we can stand by and not do something about. But I think what happens is, and what has continued to happen over the last 8 to 10 months, is that these bills become so mired in everything but what they're supposed to do that the help is not being received, and it just gets stuck in the process, and families are suffering.
Well, and before we go much further, and I can't remember, Matt usually says this, but none of these opinions are those of Acts Media Group or Acts Ministry. I mean, these are ours, mine, Lorna's, and
Not our companies, not anything. It's just a personal take on how we're seeing things. But I do think that we would be remiss if we didn't say that this was something that definitely weighs on everyone's hearts. Please pray. Please reach out to those people that that would have influence to just say, hey, can we help some people? Because right now the people need help.
Well, I mean, even just here in Springfield, Missouri, where we've got homeless folks that there's so much discussion or lack thereof on how to deal with their situation that maybe just some words to some of the local leaders on, hey, we're heading into some pretty cold times if we haven't already had some. Maybe we should try and help out as best we can with some of the vacant buildings, and I realize there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, you've got to make sure the building owner's okay with letting folks in, and they can't start fires and all that kind of stuff. So I probably should stop there and not go
Before we infuriate everyone in the area, why don't we move forward to the 12 steps of COVID, babe?
And that's what we thought of, is we thought, there's a lot of different programs that rely on the 12 steps, and I think that we're ready for the 12 steps of COVID-19, because when it comes right down to it, we're all going through this, and I just think we need to turn to a higher power and ask for as much relief and as much help as possible. And step one is, let's just go through this real quick. We admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable. Wow. I mean, how's your life since COVID-19 started?
Oh, well, okay, first of all, to be fair, we have been very blessed, and we have been grateful every day for the many things that we do have. And the unmanageable part, I think, for them, nothing is easy right now. Nothing. Every person that I've spoken to in various different walks of life, everything is so challenging. And there's just days people wake up and they're just exhausted, because just the daily living right now with COVID out there is exhausting. And those are the ones that aren't even sick. It's just that it's low-lying depression on our lives every day right now.
Well, and, like in our case, I mean, we're very grateful that we do have a roof over our heads for the moment. And, the thing that's interesting is now my typical day is I have an office in the basement. Lorna's kind of taken over the living room, which is right above me, for her office. And then whether or not we have 2 boys home or 3 boys or just the one young one, they're online with their classwork, and so I mean, thank goodness we've got Wi-Fi. But my point is that it's totally unmanageable compared to where it was a year ago. So, and obviously there's folks in even more dire straits as far as not having a roof over their head.
Well, or maybe not access to Wi-Fi, or maybe they can't.
Can you imagine?
Or they, I have coworkers that can't work at their house because of little kids and stuff like. I mean, it's just mass chaos for a lot of people trying to make it all come together.
Well, and you say kids. That's one of the things I keep worrying about is that what impact is this going to have on our youth? Because I mean, I got to tell you, when I was 13 years old, if all of a sudden I had to stay home every day for the most part and study online, I probably would have, been uncomfortable in my own skin. I mean, I was one of those folks that were, playing all the sports and, all those things you do when you're 13, going to, what is it, 7th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade, and, it just would have been different and stuff. But anyway, so number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, hopefully, since this is going out on a Christian broadcasting network, and hopefully, all of our viewers are from Acts Ministry and or thinking of working with Acts Ministry and so forth. This isn't, a tough one, but it's an important one. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, that in and of itself is a challenge every single day for those of us who consider ourselves to be pretty in control, right? We try and manage this and manage that, and there are things that are best left to the Almighty, and that is a challenge. I do a great job of laying things at His feet and then slowly just regathering them, like I'll just take this and I'll take this and or I'm the one that hands the tangled up necklace to someone and then just stands and goes, "It done yet? How about now? You got it? Nope. Okay." So again, it is that release. It is that complete and utter surrender to say, you know what? I am overwhelmed and I just cannot anymore. And I need you to take this from me and give me the grace and the peace and the strength and the stability to be okay with that. I need to be able to rest this in your hands and to know that it is safe with you and that I don't have to carry it anymore. And that's big and that's hard. It is a challenge every day to lay that at His feet and to leave it there.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Number 3, and this is, I think, one of the more important ones. They're all important. I mean, there's 12, and they're all important. But number 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And I think the key thing there is to the care of God as we understood Him. I mean, here again, we're on the Acts Media broadcast, and I would like to think that most folks believe in God. I know we do. I do. But there may be people in the viewing audience that don't, and so just to kind of clarify that, we are okay with, as long as you can identify a power greater than yourself, to turn to. I mean, it can be, I don't know, what's some examples?
Well, I mean, some people, until they can reach that point where, or maybe they have reached that point and they've just had bad experience, whatever. Some people, for example, if they're part of a 12-step group, will use the group as their greater. So maybe society becomes your greater, or your or your family, or whatever. And I'm not saying that that's the cure-all by any means. And obviously, Tony and I both have very strong feelings about our own faith. But if your faith at this point is such that you would be able to give that power to something greater than yourself, whatever that is, that still may be in your best interest, just because right now
You got to get out of yourself. Hopefully, you don't
you
make
can't
it.
just make it yourself. If you're your own greater power, you stop it.
Well,
I mean, it's not going to work.
yeah, and hopefully you don't make it the nightly news, because then
Or Facebook,
or Facebook.
or social media in any form, or whatever. Because at that point, by sheer default, you have now made Mark Zuckerberg and whatever his agenda is your greater power. I mean, so again, we very much encourage search inside yourself.
Well, and a lot of folks that I'm familiar, I know, and have as friends and acquaintances and stuff, I know sometimes they turn to nature. There's some folks that just like to get out and hike, and get out in the woods, or go to the lake or whatever it is. And I know for me, sometimes when I look at Mother Nature, I mean, it's not that difficult all of a sudden just to realize just how incredible God is and stuff. So I think that's the point of this, not to spend too much time on it, is as long as you
Find
can
something.
something, and maybe over the course of time it'll eventually kind of segue into like, oh well, gosh,
Find something and get outside of yourself is what it flat out comes down to. And if that looks like helping other people, if that looks like wandering through nature, if that looks like just spending time focusing on the universe, I mean, whatever that looks like, do it, because quite frankly, at this point, I'm seeing a lot of people that are just imploding, and
yeah.
part of that is running themselves in that circle of it's me, it's all me, it's only going to be me. I can't manage this, so therefore I can't function.
Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, let me reread that again, because, I mean, the words are very important here. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And, I mean, I'm not innocent. I mean, just driving, sometimes I'll have thoughts about the other drivers that cut me off, or I mean, it's kind of a family joke as far as some of the driving stories I have and everything. But I know for me that it's important for me to at some point stop and look at my part in some of the things that happen. I'm trying to think of a way to clean that one thing up, where it's like if you meet a couple of grouchy people in a day.
Yeah, if you've met more than 4 grouchy people in a day, there's a good chance you're one of them.
There's another version of that story, but
Yeah,
we're not.
We've cleaned that up a little bit, but when it comes right down to it, you will reflect back exactly what you're putting out there. It may take a minute, but my family makes fun of me because I make a special effort to this day to wave and smile at people in our neighborhood. Now, I don't know when it became a thing that we don't smile or wave at our neighbors. I don't know. Apparently, there was some sort of flyer that must have gone out, because no one waves anymore. I don't know what that is, but so it really bothers me. So they make fun of me because they think that I look like a crazy person, smiling and waving at everyone that I see. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I'm either the crazy person that smiles and waves, or I get some of that back, because I want that. I mean, and I wish I could remember who said this quote, because I just said it the other day and I can't remember who said it, but be the change that you want to see in the world.
Oh.
So I'm just going to keep putting it out there, and you're just going to have to deal with me smiling and waving at you until you finally do it back.
Well, when I first moved to Springfield back in 1984, I moved here June 6, 1984. I got a weird memory for dates and dollar amounts and stuff like that. And, I can tell you that, I can remember being kind of like, this is really weird back here, because everybody waved. I mean, you'd be going down some of the, especially residential streets, and somebody would see you and they'd, hey, and especially in the smaller towns and stuff. And Lorna's right. I mean, even in our own neighborhood where people know us, I mean, maybe that's why they don't wave. They know us. I don't know. But You know, I mean,
Okay, well, that's a disturbing thought,
I
but
know.
okay.
But you know, I mean, it's just it's bizarre how taciturn
Maybe.
everybody's turned.
Apathetic.
You know?
It makes me sad, and I get it. Everybody's going through challenges right now. There is not a person out there that doesn't have something that's weighing on them. I promise you.
Number 5, admitted to God, or in this case, you could put in your higher power, but let's keep it God for the moment. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. So I don't think this means like, you know, talking to yourself in the mirror. I mean, that would be a good step probably. Like, oh, okay, you know, I was a jerk in traffic today, or I cut that little old lady off at the cash register, or, you know, whatever it may be. But, you know, all kidding aside, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Who would you consider to be a good a human being that you could use that with?
Well, sure. In a normal 12-step program, you're going to have a sponsor, right? Generally speaking. So I think it's important that you have somebody that you've built a relationship with, that you look up to, whether it's a mentor, whether it's somebody you know, that is in the family that you trust completely. But it has to be somebody that you've built a trust with and that knows the importance of discretion, because you have to be able to be brutally honest. And I think that that's really the important part of this, is the ability to be brutally honest, and to admit the things that you probably wouldn't have otherwise wanted to admit, just about life, just about stupid things that you've done that you now feel regret for. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of, because a lot of people don't have that in their lives. They don't have somebody that they can be that honest with and feel safe.
You know, we're on the Axe Media broadcast. I mean, you know, maybe you're, you know, the preacher that you work with, you know, somebody from the clergy, somebody that's, you know, in an ordained minister. I mean, that would be people I would think of. Of course, jokingly, my mind was thinking about your attorney or your doctor, because they're protected with attorney-client privilege and HIPAA, you know. But that's just, my mind goes off in weird directions on that stuff. But I do think that is.
But a therapist would also be under that.
Therapist.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it, Catholicism is, you know, obviously a very successful religion in our world. I mean, you know, for thousands of years and stuff. And what's one of the key things to being a Catholic? It's that you can
Confessions.
go to confession. Yep. And, you know, some people don't do it as often as they probably should, and some people, you know, who knows, maybe they need to do it more often. But, you know, I can't make that call for them. All I know is that.
But the tenet of confession has a very strong purpose, which is to basically check yourself.
So that would be number 5. And number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Once again, we're entirely ready.
But what's interesting about that is that rolls back to a biblical principle, which is repenting is one thing, but when they say that you have to ask for forgiveness, right? So confess what you've done and then repent, it means to turn away and do no more. Okay? So that's a tricky one, because we may want to confess the things that we've done, but we're not really ready to just not do them anymore.
We take too much pleasure in.
We really just want to yell at people. Or we really just enjoy whatever that thing is that, you know, maybe a character flaw. Maybe you, whatever that is.
I'm going to park in the handicap because it's so close to the front door.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, again, we're giving you kind of the vanilla version of those. But, and 12-step programs, of course, are based on a lot of not vanilla things like gambling addictions and alcoholism and that kind of stuff. But, it's ultimately about if you've got things that clearly are a roadblock for you in your life, that are character flaws, that are things that you know that you need to change, that aren't serving you, aren't serving your family, aren't better for you, you have to be willing to not only say this is a problem, but to start doing something else.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to speed up just a little bit
Okay.
here. Number 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. So humble.
Well, that one just kind of rolls into the last one,
Yeah,
which is
6 and 7.
basically, I don't want this character flaw anymore, and I'm going to work on removing it. And again, it could be him, it could be her, it could, whatever your higher power is at that point, but asking for that to be removed from you so you're not struggling.
Yeah, just turning it over. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Now, I think this one's a powerful one right now because I got to tell you, some of the stuff is just petty little things because, you're feeling like this is all on you and you're the only one. Like I said, I'm short on time, so I need to quit rambling. But made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
Mm-hmm. So whether those are financial amends, you owe people money, you maybe, didn't do the right thing in a financial transaction. Spiritual amends, you said one thing and you did something else. Emotional amends, physical amends. That can get into its own talk right there. But ultimately, that you're the willingness to be soft, to say, you know what, I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So, that one's kind of a neat one because, think about it. If to make the amends, you're going to have to put somebody in harm's way, it's okay maybe to, use some very, 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 very good discretion there and not injure them or others. I can think of examples and stuff and probably shouldn't even bring them up. But, I just think that this one's a powerful one because, depending on what the situation is, the character defect involved and whatever happened and stuff like that, it could be something serious. And you just don't want to, make things worse. But then on the other hand, you want to go through this cleansing process. Any thoughts on that before I move on?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. Now, number 10, and then the reason why I think the 12 steps work for a lot of different programs is there's some work that has to go into them. There's a process that is very methodical and good, for lack of a better word, stuff. Number 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Now, I think this one's huge because this is something you want to do like every night before you go to bed. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And a lot of people do what?
Is that the 4th step?
That was
That
10.
was actually 10. So 10 is basically a repetition of the 4th step on the regular basis.
Yeah, in recovery, the 4th step, that's the 4th step, and it's the hardest one.
It is.
Personal inventory.
4th step is very hard. And then once you've basically cleaned up your side of the street, no, you're good. Once you've cleaned up your side of the street, you want to keep it clean, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the dishes or the laundry. You'd like to think you're all done forever, but we're never really done. No. So really, every evening, we try and, at least each of us on our own time, try to, okay, how did this day go and what could have gone better? And what are the things that I could fix or amends I need to make now? Because again, nobody's perfect. So, but then it allows you to start over, start anew every day.
And the thing is that if you do that every day, it allows whatever that is to not fester and and get bigger and bigger, and and then about a month later, it's like where you're coming to blows with somebody or something like that.
Or with yourself. I mean, I think a lot of people have a nasty habit of just continuing to dig. Well, I did this, and then this makes me feel how, and then what's going to happen, and worst case scenario, and all that stuff. Just at a certain point, drop the spoon, man. Stop digging.
Are you talking about guilt?
I'm talking about guilt. I'm talking about stress. I'm talking about worry. I'm talking about fear. I'm talking about all of those things. It's okay.
Yeah. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation, not medication, meditation, to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Let me reread that, because they're all key, but this one's really, really. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out.
Now, I want to take this really quickly because a lot of people in their religious training along the way have been told, never pray for yourself. You should only pray for things and for other people and everything else. We're not saying that you shouldn't be praying for those things, but it is so important that you are brutally honest with yourself, with God, with whatever your higher power is. And you say, I need to fix me first, and whatever I can be doing to be a better me, I need to be doing those things. So I ask that I be, directed in that way, and that I have the strength to carry those out. And I think that's big.
Well, the thought that came to my mind is, what about the whole mask issue, I mean, there's people out there that won't wear a mask and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I don't want to get into that too far.
Apolitical, dear.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to say, as far as this step, if you're having issues whether you're a mask wearer or not, maybe, this little step 11 is one you rely on just for some guidance, like, should I or shouldn't I? If you're a motorcycle rider, do I wear a helmet or not? I mean, how much of an impact do you want to have on other people's lives, and really how much control do you want to have over what you're putting down, what you're doing, And I just think this is a really good one, because I think a lot of people want to control everything, and that's probably not the best thing to do and stuff. Okay, last but not least, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to humans and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And I say humans because, this COVID-19 thing obviously is worldwide. It's not just Americans. It's not just Missouri people. It's not just Greene County people. I mean, we're talking about the whole world, which blows me away, because every once in a while I get in a mood where it's like, hey, let's jump on a plane and go to Antigua or, something like that. And, they're going through the same thing we are. So having had a spiritual awakening.
As a result of these steps.
So don't be thinking you can, start one or two of these and then boom, you're going to have a spiritual awakening. You need to work through these. And, you can Google 12 steps. I mean, I'm just looking at on the phone here. So it's not like, you can't.
There's no secret.
Yeah.
It's not secret. There's plenty of opportunity if this is something that would be helpful.
Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to human beings and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And, not that I'm perfect or Lorna's perfect, it's progress, not perfection, that kind of stuff. But I will tell you that I am grateful every day, especially since COVID-19 protocol started, that I'm familiar with these steps, because, I mean, sometimes it's minute by minute that, I'll think of one, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have cut that lady off at the register, And
Seem kind of obsessed with cutting people off.
Well,
Do we have to talk about that
Yes.
later? Okay.
So yesterday when I ran my errands, I had one item, and there was this middle-aged lady that had a whole cart full of stuff. And in the old days, I probably would have stopped and said, oh, go ahead. And I zipped in there. It was one item, 15 seconds, I was done. but I knew I, had probably not done the right thing there. So I got to do step 10 on that one, and if I see her at the store again, I'll make an amends.
Okay. I'll try and film that for our listening audience. That'll be humorous.
Anyway, Mr. Matt, our producer, has come back in the studio, and that normally means that we're quickly running out of time. So, today we wanted to do a little bit different. We had the replay of President Trump's.
2020's just been a rough one,
It
and
has.
we just want to be there with you. We get that everybody's got struggles, and some of them are going to be different than ours, and some of them are going to be the same. But we all need to bond together and help one another. And, part of that starts with being honest with yourself. What is it that I'm doing? What am I bringing every day that could be a help or a hindrance to other people?
And, if you ever needed to, reach out to someone on any of the topics we discussed today, you're always welcome to give me a call at 417-755-0700, or you can email me at tony@thegoldaffiliate.com. And, hopefully some of this new material was worthwhile, and even if just one person out there got one thing, I'm going to consider it a success. Next week, our show is going to focus on the new year.
Moving forward into the new year. And also, I do feel, again, because we have discussed several things that might be considered controversial, that we need to state that our opinions are not those of Acts Ministry. They have nothing to do with my particular job with Liberty Mutual. They are not necessarily reflective of your job. This is specific and individual to Lorna Hammock and Tony Hammock.
And everybody out there, have a safe Christmas, especially if you have to do any last-minute shopping. Be careful, be kind.
Slow down and be cautious, please.
Yeah, and let's enjoy Christmas, and let's remember what Christmas is all about. And then, of course, with it being on a Friday, it turns into a 3 or a 4 day weekend. So please enjoy and love your loved ones because, things can change in a heartbeat. We lost a few more people close to us this week and have a couple of services to go to this weekend and stuff. So it's very, very, very delicate life at this point. And, treasure it and all those other things that we talk about week in, week out and stuff. And have a good one. Enjoy it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.